Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is a voice actor, a writer, a filmmaker. Actually, that's what he's up to nowadays. I believe that's what your main field is, filmmaking.
I think that's an accurate statement. Sure.
Yeah. So my guest is the lovely Blayne Weaver. Hi, Blayne.
Hello. It's very good to see you. Thank you for
Very
having me
good to
here.
see you too. You're
And I like your
welcome.
cat ears very much.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. These are just like my signature look. Um, but Blayne, honestly, people know you from obviously two different sectors of the performing arts industry. For your voiceover work, you've been the voice of Peter Pan in multiple films, such as Return to Neverland, also known as Peter Pan 2, Mickey's Magical Christmas, snowed in at the House of Mouse, and a brief appearance at the end of The Lion King 1.5, where they're all in the cinema watching the film together, which I think is
Yes,
quite cool.
very brief appearance, but it counts.
Yeah, definitely. And also, you've voiced him in The House of Mouse, which is a TV show. Video games such as Peter Pan, Kinect Disneyland Adventures, Disney Infinity 3.0, and theme park ride, Mickey's Philhar Magic, yeah. I don't think you voiced him for the Peter Pan flight one. I don't think.
No, it's still the original. Who I don't
Original.
believe it's the original voice. I think it's the original person that did the ride. So the ride,
Yeah.
is very nostalgic and it's people know it and love it. So no, they haven't done that. But I have gotten to do lots of. It's such a great job. I get a
Yeah.
call once every 3 months or something, and they say, hey, we want Peter Pan to do something on the the ships, or the Disney Cruise Line. I mean, or they want to do Disneyland Tokyo, or it's just really cool and fun and like this really special thing to be a part of. And I consider myself very lucky.
Yeah. And of course, you're not just known for voicing Peter Pan, you're also known for playing a whole bunch of characters, including Clark Kent slash Superman in Losing Lois Lane, George in Uncross the Stars, William in Weather Girl. Um, you were Tyler in 6 Month Rule, Tom Kavanagh in Deep Dark Canyon, Jonas in Progress, Mr. Sawyer in American Pie Presents Girls Rules, which you also wrote, I believe.
That's right. Very, very good observation there. And most people kind of miss that. But yes, I did.
Yeah, so that's nice films. And then for television, you've done like The Flood, Who Will Save Our Children, ER, Chicago Hope, Winchell, The King of Queens, NCIS, The Middleman. And you've also written, you wrote Losing Lois Lane as well, and Weather Girl, and 6 Month Rule. So you've obviously written and starred in a lot of your content, if that makes any sense, and also directed it. And you've also directed it and produced it, Losing Lois Lane and 6 Month Rule. And, oh my gosh, I did
Lots of
not pay.
hats. I wear lots
I
of
know,
hats.
I know. Yeah, just like, well, first of all, obviously, I've got to talk about, as I was saying before, VHS tapes. I have. This isn't the one I grew up with, not the tape itself, but
Right.
this is like, it's hard to. It's like an exclusive video. It's a Great Ormond Street Hospital limited edition.
Oh,
And just £1 will be given to Great Ormond Street Children's Gosh CC when you buy this video, plus bonus feature Art Attack Builder Treasure Island. That's quite cool.
oh,
Obviously, it has the tape
look at
inside.
that. Very
I
nice.
know, so it is quite an exclusive tape. So, first of all, I've got to ask. Of course, you were over here in London for the premiere. So what was
Yeah.
that like? Did you visit Great Ormond Street Hospital by any chance?
I did
Or
not. But I know that
that'd
Jim
been cool
Barry's
if you
been
did.
connected with that for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
long
yeah,
time.
yeah,
It was very what's the right word to say it? We did a big Hollywood premiere out here in LA, which is where I
yeah,
am, and it
yeah,
was at the Disney El Capitan Theater, which is super cool. And
yeah.
they did the whole thing with limos and an after party and stuff. And Harriet Owen, who plays Jane, came out here. They brought her out here to do this LA premiere, and then she was going to go to the England premiere and the London premiere. And I was like, well, that's really cool. I want to do that. And I'm like, can I go? And they're like, well, we don't really want to spend the money. Or what if I just go? Can I do the whole thing if I just go myself? So I basically just planned a trip around this premiere, and it couldn't have been nicer. Everybody was lovely, and they did all the bells and whistles and stuff. And I don't know. I'm a kid from a small town in Bossier City, Louisiana. So anytime I get to do something like go to a giant movie premiere in London, I try to take those opportunities and do it. But it was
Oh yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And of course, yeah, Harriet Owen. I believe that's one of her only acting credits. She's only acted in a few things, and I believe now she's an English teacher. Are you still in touch with her by any chance? Or have you...
Once in a while, we'll exchange like a little Facebook message of how you doing, how's
Wow.
life, what's going on over there.
Oh right, okay, so
Um,
she's not gone under the radar completely. I thought like, oh no, she's
what
completely gone out of acting, but at least
you
she's
know,
still
I
locally.
did a convention not too long ago, and they were very interested in having her there. So I that was the first time I'd reached out in a while, and it
Mhm.
took her like months. I thought that she, I had offended her by my asking about the convention, and it just turned out she had changed, whatever accounts. But
Yeah,
she's lovely, funny, like really great. She was a child actor, basically. Like she was around 16 or 17 when we did that film, and so she had worked on
yeah.
a few things, but I
Mhm.
think life just kind of took another path. But
Yeah.
she's great and so wonderful in the movie, and was such a nice. One of the things that was unique to me about this was I assumed that we would be recording separately, and like I'd be in a room all by myself, and I
Yeah, yeah.
was for most of it. But we had in the cans. She was in London, so she would go in at night in order to accommodate the time difference,
Like the
and
Source
we would get
Connect, yeah.
yeah, and we would get to record together, which I just never thought would be able to happen with someone in another continent. But it did, and I think it helped the relationship in the movie a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So was it just you and Harriet then who recorded together, or did you record
Yeah,
together with
often
anybody else?
I had a few days with Corey Burton, who did Captain Hook and a couple of other
I
characters.
presume that was the case.
Yeah, he's a genius. Like, so I'm just sitting there being like, how do you do that? Like, how do you sound like so many different people just sitting there? But we initially recorded the entire movie like that with the first woman who was cast as Jane, who they replaced with Harriet for some reason or another, because Harriet's
Yeah,
awesome. And we recorded it like that, so it was kind of like a play, it was like a reading for a TV or a movie.
yeah,
But then we all went our separate ways, and the recording for it went on for like 2 years. They were constantly rewriting the script and tweaking, and so it was again a great gig. But they never gave me a contract, right? And when they replaced the Jane character, I was like, all right, this is never coming out with me in it. They're going to get Michael J. Fox or something at the last second. He's going to come in and record all of the Peter Pan stuff. And, I'm just going to accept it like that. I'm not going to count on this movie coming out with my voice in it. And I
mm,
honestly didn't know that it was going to happen until I was at the movies and I saw the trailer for it. And I'm like, well, they're
that's
doing it.
me.
They're keeping me. Yeah, you would be surprised how often I have said, "Hey, that's me," because you do these little jobs, and it's kind of like an intellectual exercise of like, wait, what is this? It's like, oh, don't even worry about it. It's for the cruise lines, and it's in a restaurant, and I'm like, okay. Well, I went on a Disney cruise, and I'd completely forgotten that I did this job, and I was sitting at dinner, and then all of a sudden I hear me. And I'm like, my friend who I was with tried to convey this to the waiter of like, that's him. He's Peter Pan. And the waiter's like, yeah, okay, cool. Cool. Thanks a lot.
Oh, right.
Would you like some more dessert? But I've said those words a lot, referring to Peter Pan. Hey, that's
Sure, sir,
me.
that's good. I lost my voice. Sure, sir, that's good. But
Yeah, right.
oh yes. But honestly, though, seriously, just sitting like you sitting. I know we're not obviously together in person. We're like what 8 hours away from each
I
other
believe so. I
at time
believe so.
difference. But just hearing you talk so fondly of your cast members from the film. Did you work with Jeff Bennett? Because obviously he voiced Mr. Smee in the film.
I don't believe we worked together in person. So like
Must
in the
have.
original read through,
Yeah.
Corey did all of the, of the pirates, right? He was basically
Yeah.
giving the animators something to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then when they were placed, it became very separate. One funny story that I had one day where I got to work with the Lost Boys. Because they recorded all of that separately, but they had this song that they wanted me to sing, and
Yeah.
my agent called me and said, Disney wants to know if you can sing, and I'm like, no, I can't. And he's like, let me
Well,
rephrase.
that's
Disney wants to know if you can sing. And I'm like, honestly, I'm not a good singer. And they're like, why don't you let them decide that? And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, but this sounds like a bad deal. So basically, we tell them I can sing. We go into this recording studio, and there's all of the Lost Boys, who are actual children, between probably the ages of like 6 and 12 or something.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
they, had been recording for a while as I had. So it was kind of neat to meet them in person and stuff. And we started singing, they started singing the song, and I was in the other room. They were going to get me separately. And they said, hey, I got an idea. Blayne, why don't you go in there? Why don't you go in there with the kids? They'll love it. And it'll be a great track to lay down. I'm like, okay. So I go in, we start singing again. They stop it and say, hey, Blayne, actually, can you move closer to the mic? Can you just move in a little bit? I'm like, sure, excuse me, get a little closer to the mic. We do it again. And I see the looks behind the glass of like, this. Actually, Blayne, why don't you move back to where you were? Why don't you step away from the mic a little bit? And I'm like, oh, okay. Now I'm humiliated. So I step back a little bit. And then again, they stop it and they're like, actually, Blayne, just step out. We'll do you separately. So I was humiliated in front of the Lost Boys because of my lack of singing skills. But luckily for me, Disney decided that maybe Peter Pan isn't on pitch all the time. So it worked out. I am actually on the CD of One of Us, I believe is the name of the song. And
Ah,
yeah, I have my own singing CD. Not everybody can say that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So doing the premiere for Return to Neverland both in actually, how would you compare the Los Angeles premiere to the London premiere? Of course, the London one only had you and Harriet and a few others, I believe. Corey didn't
Right.
go to that one. He went to the Los Angeles one.
Right.
So, what was it? How would you compare it between the two? Different atmosphere, different.
Totally different atmosphere, but
Yeah.
I mean, both incredibly cool in their own way. So LA, it was a daytime premiere because they invited a bunch of celebrities to bring their kids, so it had a
That's what they
very
do for a lot of films,
youthful
yeah.
fun. Yeah, it's a great idea. I'd never been to one like that, so super fun. And all of these celebrities were there, were their children, and there was a red carpet, and they did do the limo thing, and then there was an after party, and the after party was for kids, right? So they had a little Peter Pan running around, and but it was
Oh,
very fun, very unique. It just again made me just feel very uh special and lucky to be there, right? So, but the
yeah.
London premiere was, I think I mentioned this to you earlier. I've seen pictures of them having James Bond premieres at this same theater,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's what it felt like to me. It was way more sophisticated, and everybody was dressed very nice, and it was a nighttime premiere. It just felt very English. I
Yeah.
mean, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted that experience, and it was great. It was more cool. It was more dry martini shaken, not stirred than come on, kids, let's play out back. Which is exactly what I was looking for in the
It's a
experience.
grown-ups time now. The big kids have come out
Grown-ups
to
time,
play.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I was
Yeah.
very intimidated by how nice everybody looked.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
suits.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen photos like from there are photos online from the premiere, and I've just looked through them, and you're just thinking, I wish I was there. Like
Yeah,
this was 14-year-old me thinking, oh my gosh, they're probably gonna. I might go to a premiere like this someday, and then be like, no, it probably won't be possible. But then again, because I'm now in voiceover and stuff, and I'm coming out to California, could happen. I don't
awesome.
know. I'm
Never
excited
say
though.
never. I mean,
Exactly.
especially if you're in this crazy business, who would think that I would be, doing when I booked this job, I had never done a voiceover before. I was a working actor. I'd done TV and film and commercials and all that stuff. And I basically went in to my agent's office,
Mm-hmm.
which you used to do, pre-COVID. You just pop in and remind them that you
Yeah.
exist, and like, just making sure you're sending me out for stuff. And she looked at her desk and said, here, why don't you go down the hall and audition for this? And it was for Return to Neverland, but they had me auditioning for Cubby, who originally in the original film was voiced by an adult. So I was, I think, 23, 24 at the time. So they
Yeah.
wanted me to do like the Cubby voice, which sounds a lot like Goofy to me. That kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
started doing the audition, and like I just told the guy in the booth, I'm like, she sent me down. Is it cool if I audition? He's like, yeah, he didn't care. So I did a couple of lines as Cubby, and I'm like, I just feel really silly doing this. I'm not really a voice person, but I've seen Peter Pan a million times. It was my favorite cartoon growing up, and I had the voice in my head. I'm like, I can do the voice of Peter if you haven't cast that. And he's like, no, go ahead, do it. Again, didn't care. And about 6 weeks later, I get a call from them saying, who are you? Do we represent you? Like, we've been trying to track you down for weeks because Disney wants to see you again for this. Are you in the voiceover department? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm in the regular talent department. So I ended up booking it, but it's the only one of like a handful of voiceovers I've ever booked. It's never been something that I went out for a lot or, tried for a lot. It was just I got Peter Pan, and then I'm in London at the premiere. So you don't know.
Yeah.
I never thought that a voiceover career was going to be something that I was going to pursue. As you mentioned, I love acting, I love screenwriting, directing, but I'm mostly in cinema and independent cinema. So being this iconic cartoon, 13-year-old boy is not something that was in my my predictive text. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I think like it's really cool because of how sort of different it is to the original story, of course. Like
Mhm.
you've got, of course, like Wendy and John and Michael. I believe that's her brothers. Oh my gosh.
John and Michael. Mhm.
Knew it, yeah, knew it, John and Michael.
Boom.
I thought I knew it was in the back of my head. And then, of course, in obviously Return to Neverland, you've got Jane and then her younger brother, Daniel.
Yeah.
I don't know why Danny didn't go with her to Neverland because I know, of course, it was Wendy, John, and Michael in the original and stuff. But I suppose they wanted
Yeah,
to change
I
it up.
think there were lots of changes on the fly as they were going, but they were really intent on figuring out Jane's story. It's like
Yeah,
really having a feminine voice, in this film, in something that challenges Peter's whole Lost Boys, or girls always act like that around me. That
yeah,
kind of
yeah, 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 yeah.
childhood misogyny, I guess. But they were really intent on making Jane's story the center of the piece. And then she kind of becomes like a mother figure or a older sister
Yeah,
figure to the rest of the Lost Boys. I don't know
yeah.
why, but I know that they went down several roads and then would say no, and they'd come back, and but it was great. I was always getting called to come back in, and I'm like, I don't even know what's happening in the script now. How many changes have happened? So when I got to see the actual movie, it was like surprise. I'm like, oh, this is not what I remember from the original read through, but I'll take it.
Yeah, well, I mean, what really made me laugh and what also confused me is the fact that the whole family was British apart from Danny. He was the only one with an American accent. It's so weird. Like,
Well,
how they live in London. Everyone's British. Like, why is he just trying to have an American accent? He's been growing up with cartoons, but then again, I mean, it was set in World War II, so I suppose it would have been Looney Tunes back in the day or something. But that's
yeah.
something that a mystery that can't be explained.
Well, you know what? One thing that I've always thought was funny, and I don't know if this connects or if there's a rationale or if they just like
Yeah,
that kid's voice better than somebody that could do an English lilt. But I love that Peter is always American, like no matter what. Like if it's in Japan or if it's in Europe or whatever, it's like usually Peter. Well, in my experience, Peter is always American and he always speaks English. Even if it's if Wendy or Jane is speaking French, but Peter will still speak English. I think that's really interesting and a strange decision. But they think about this stuff all the way through, man. Like every time I record, they have this 1950s style microphone that's like an antique, right? And they use it every time for Peter because it has a certain quality that they like. And I just really respect the lengths the Disney goes to, the Disney character voices people go
yeah,
to keep it consistent and
yeah.
to keep it feeling the same. Those words mean the same thing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course, like just were you asked to do your own take on Peter Pan, or were you asked to do like a voice reference to Bobby Driscoll from the first film?
They wanted me to sound like Bobby Driscoll. That was the whole bag, and to me the secret of that is like, we don't sound exactly like Bobby's a higher pitch than I am, but
Yeah.
what I found to be the key to Peter Pan is the 1950s style of doing it. Like I don't know if you know the old TV show Leave It to Beaver, but
Yes.
it used to play on reruns when I was a kid, and I heard it all the time. And I always thought that Peter was basically Wally Cleaver, So he'd have kind of this 1950s kind of style, you know what I'm saying? That kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's like, it's more about the time in which he was recording it than it is about the quality of what the voice, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, geez, weren't you a little mean to the beeve last night?
I
That
was
kind
going
of
to
stuff.
ask you to do the voice of Peter Pan, but that is the
There you
voice.
go. There you go. That's it.
Well, yeah, I was only going to ask if you could still do the voice. I don't know, because it says
Oh yeah.
on the internet that you're still voicing Peter Pan for different pieces of media. Is that actually true?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Oh my
fantastic.
gosh, you're still going. I thought like it
I
was
still
just for
go.
those stuff, and then you stint ended. I didn't know you were still
No,
doing
I've
it.
been doing it since 2000. And, I'm
What?
sure that, eventually they'll move on to, someone greener. But as of right now, like, I'm the guy they call. And if I can't do it, I'm sure there's someone else just waiting in the wings, excited about it. But luckily, I can still pull off young Peter. And I mean, it's so much fun. I think the last one I did was maybe 6 months ago. But
Wow.
it's always a blast. And now I've gotten to the point where I know the people, whether it's for the Disney parks or it's for cartoon or video game, it's, that they're all different departments, but I've run into them all enough now where I think we all get along, and they're going to at least try it with me. So far,
Yeah.
my voice hasn't cracked too bad.
I was gonna say, have you done any sort of voiceover? I know obviously you've only really done Peter Pan voiceover
Mhm.
wise, but would you like to do more voiceover as a different character, or are you just fine with being Peter Pan?
Well, my ideal thing, you mentioned that I had when my first independent film that I made was a Superman spoof.
Yeah.
So I got to play Superman and Clark Kent in a short film,
Yeah.
and then I booked Peter Pan. And so the only thing really left for me, I really feel I'd really like a Robin the Boy Wonder kind of thing in there. That's the
Yeah.
one that I feel like would really bring it home. So I always push for superheroes like Spider-Man, or I've got a boyish kind of quality, so a Spider-Man or a Robin or something like that would be really cool. That's what I'd love. It's a dream scenario at this point, but
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
something
I
iconic like those two characters would be so cool.
Yeah. Have you ever been to any Disney park and gone
Sure.
up to Peter Pan and talked to
Well, I,
and
I've
try to
done plenty
explain
of
the whole thing to him?
I've done plenty of videos, for social media, rolling my eyes at whoever the Peter Pan is, basically suggesting this guy's just an imposter. And but no, I've never gone up to them and been like, I am the voice of Peter Pan. It rarely goes the way you think it's going to go. You know what I mean? Like when it first came out, I had a lot of friends around my age who had little kids, and they were like, he's the voice of Peter Pan. And at that point, they do not understand, and it's almost too weird for them. But what is cool is kids that watched it when they were kids, when they're
Yeah.
grown up, then they get a kick out of it because they've watched the movie a million times. But most of the time, you have to kind of explain to people. Like, I do these conventions sometimes, and people will literally be like, so you were the Peter Pan in the first movie? I'm like, no, I'm not. I would be around 80. But thank you. So yeah, it has to be the right. They have to know Return to Neverland or have some vague knowledge that Peter Pan's voice is still used all the time, and
Yeah.
most people just don't.
Yeah, yeah. So your writing career, your writing, producing, directing career, did you start that before, obviously, like your acting voiceover career, or did you like kind of go into that after you'd done Peter Pan's
I did.
voice?
Well, it's like I was in Los Angeles. I moved from Bossier City, Louisiana, which is where I'm from, to New York, and then to Los Angeles. So I was in Los Angeles, and like I've said, I was doing all these guest spots on TV shows and commercials and stuff that was very cool, but was not what I wanted to do. And I had
Hmm.
just done a TV movie with Matt Damon, who was writing Good Will Hunting at the time. And so that
Yeah,
was very inspirational to me. And so after that, I started writing with this idea of making a movie that I could act in and write. And so that movie ended up getting made and going to Sundance. It's a movie called Manic.
yeah,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt ended up starring in it with Zoe Deschanel and Don Cheadle. Really cool indie depressing, very I guess you could say it, violent kind of indie film. And that movie came out the same year that I was making Peter Pan. So the
Yeah.
worlds really collided. And it's like I was explaining to the director of Return to Neverland. I'm like, oh yeah, I just got back from Sundance. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I wrote a movie at Sundance. And it couldn't be more different, right? It's about kids in a mental institution, right? It's very dark, and at the same time, I'm the voice of Peter Pan. But honestly, that's been some of my favorite things about my career. Is it's varied. There's lots of different things to do. I love doing Peter Pan as much as I do, writing American Pie Girls Rules, right? Which again couldn't be more different. But I like that Renaissance person lifestyle. Like it's all
Yeah.
art, and I love doing it all.
Yeah. Would you say writing is hard? Because obviously, like, you got to come up with like different ideas for
Yeah,
what
I
someone
mean, I
can
think
like
it's
that.
all hard to do it well. You know what I mean? Writing is a very solitary exercise, and then you get lots of criticism. So you have to have thick skin, just like in acting. But yeah, it's not easy. But if you enjoy it, the payoff is really fantastic. It's not only like, hey, my movie's on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. It's like I got it all the way through the machinery, and the machinery is made to criticize you, to tell you what's
Yeah.
wrong with your script, to be like, this character needs to be in this, and put an elephant in it, and why is this happening? But when you can get it all the way through, and with all of the gatekeepers, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, definitely. What inspired you to make a Superman short film? Did you grow up watching Superman? Did you watch the animated series? What did you grow up reading the comics? How did
All
that
of
come
this is
about?
true. I'm really a Batman guy, so I was going to write a
Me too.
Batman movie,
Me too.
but Batman's the best. Batman is absolutely the best.
Yeah.
But I was going to do a Batman movie, and then I realized that in order to make the suit look real, it was just going to be way too much of the budget. But the reason I did it was I had just done Manic, and I wrote Manic, but I didn't direct it. And I came off that movie wanting to direct something. So I had a little extra scratch because of Peter Pan, and I had bought a house. So I sold my house to finance my first feature film to make me a director, which is very bad financial advice. Don't do it. But that was the plan. So I wanted to make a short film just to test and see whether I was any good at directing, and specifically to see if I could direct and act at the same time.
Yeah.
So we came up with this concept of I loved Super Friends when I was a kid. Super Friends is a 1960s cartoon that I saw in
Yeah.
reruns. But
Yeah.
like it's so cheesy, like it's Superman and Batman and Green Lantern all hanging out together, and it's like I thought, what if that we looked at that like real, Superman gets depressed after he's dumped and he can't motivate himself to save anybody, and he's kind of getting picked on by Green Lantern. So it's just a ridiculous spoof that me and my friends thought would be funny, and I could buy the Superman outfit like a real, Christopher Reeve style Superman outfit for just a couple $100. Whereas the Batman outfit, you'd have to spend a couple of thousand in order to do it. So that's how it became about Superman. But
Yeah.
it's very R-rated, that short. Just FYI, there's lots of cursing all the way through it. I always have to give the warning because, especially in the Peter Pan space, you don't want somebody being like, "Oh, mommy, show me this Superman thing," and then you're like, "Oh my gosh." But it's
That's Peter
basically
Pan.
like
No, it's not Peter
R-rated
Pan.
comedy about superheroes.
I see. I see. Well, I'm glad to hear that you are a fan of Super Friends, of course. Like, it feels like
Absolutely
we are similar people. We like the same sort of cartoons, like, of course, like Kevin Conroy's Batman, Super Friends.
amazing.
I know, yeah, and Super Friends, of course, you got like Shannon Farnon as Wonder Woman, who I've had on my show. Frank
Very
Welker
cool.
was in it. He
Oh
he
wow.
played a lot of characters. Of course, I've got
Yeah, yeah.
his on my wardrobe. Yeah, are there any voice actors you kind of look up to or have met who you didn't work with on Peter Pan? So like excluding like Corey and Jeff Bennett and stuff like that. So people like Frank Welker or people like that.
I've met some really, really interesting people. I never got to meet Kevin, but like he was like a hero to me.
Yeah.
And Corey Burton is amazing. He'll always be my number one just because he's such a I wouldn't say he's a normal guy, but he's such a modest guy, if that makes
Yeah.
sense,
Hmm.
and just is so unassuming and does all of these amazing voices, which I love. There's yeah, one thing that was really cool. I've done it like a handful, two or three of these conventions, and I got to meet the voice actors behind Bambi and Thumper, and they're older now, but it's just
And
like it's so
Flower,
cool to hear
yeah.
these old stories,
Yeah.
and I'm a big fan of that. Of course, Margaret Carey, who is the basis of Tinkerbell, I see a lot. And she was, the body double for Tinkerbell, and was just is kind of an icon from 1950s television. So we do a lot of stuff together where we're signing stuff, and she's just great.
Have you met Catherine Beaumont, the original Wendy?
I have, yeah.
Have
She was in
you?
the original read through that we did.
Oh yeah, because
You
she
know,
was meant to be older Wendy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I was just blown away because sometimes it's like, with Corey, for instance, you hear him talk and you're like, yeah, I can. And then he does the voice and you're like, oh, right, I hear it. But with Catherine, she just spoke and it was like, oh, you're Wendy. That's so crazy. It's like I can see Wendy, I can see Alice in Wonderland. It's like it just conjures up. It's so exactly what you expect it to be, which is
Yeah.
very rare in life. But she's lovely, lovely.
That's so cool to hear. Yeah. So what was like? Catherine was there. Obviously, she was going to be the older Wendy. Do you know anything about her being recast? Because I believe Kath Soucie replaced her. Something about her voice
Yeah,
sounded too old. Like,
I
what
guess.
was that
I
all
guess it
about?
didn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me. Nothing
Doesn't make
against
sense to me as
Kath
well.
Susie, but I was just disappointed that we wouldn't get to work together again because it was so cool. But maybe there was some quality that just didn't translate. I don't know.
So all these years later, Blayne, would you think that? Did you think that you would still be doing Peter Pan's voice like all these years later, essentially?
You know what? I always have taken it as it comes, and known that it could disappear at any moment, and they could do another cartoon and want a fresh take on it, or my voice could have the same. I mean, they replaced Alice in Wonderland, for goodness sakes. Like, I'm not above that. But ever since
Yeah.
the very beginning, I didn't believe that it was actually going to come out with my voice. I just assumed that I was there as a tool for the animators, and that once they got close to a release date they would put someone famous in there. So no, I didn't think by any means that I would still be doing it right now, but I feel very lucky that I am, and like I said, I'll keep it going as long as they'll have me, and whenever they cut the cord, I'll be like, well, got a nice run out of it. So yeah, I mean, I'm just such a big fan of the character and the history behind the character, and it's very me, so it's kind of the perfect role for me to feel satisfied in, and I'm lucky to still have it.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally an established Disney character. This isn't like an original character. This is like established Peter Pan Disney. Heck, it was a
I mean,
story.
icon,
It was a
icon.
story before it became a film.
That's right.
Crazy. Like, wow, just thinking about it, Actually, is there any other like mainstream Disney voice actors that you've met? Maybe the voices of Mickey and Minnie, the voice of Goofy, maybe Bill
I've met
Farmer,
Mickey.
Lucy
I've met
Taylor.
Mickey's a nice guy, like,
Which
I'm
one, Brett or Wayne?
Brett. I've met
Brett.
Brett.
Yeah, yeah.
He's great. I've gotten to meet some Star Wars voice over people that everybody freaks out about, and I'm like, Clone Wars and all that jazz.
Yeah.
I've gotten to meet some really the woman who does the voice of Pocahontas. She's great and lovely. Everybody's, they've all been really cool, and I've always felt kind of like a tourist in that world, because it's not my bread and butter or whatever. It's not, the thing that I get up and do every day. And most of them are, that's their thing, So I just like to go and hear the stories about Walt Disney when he was still alive, and hear these great stories from iconic characters, but like I said, everybody's been really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And like when you're doing all these convention appearances and stuff, how does it feel to like have these, like maybe they're adults who watched the original film growing up as well as the sequel, or they showed their kids
Mhm.
the sequel. How does it feel to like, be at these conventions and just sort of see all these fans of your work and everything like that?
Well, I mean, it's great. It's like, how could you complain about that? People are so excited, whether they're little kids that, just love Peter Pan or love Return to Neverland or whatever, or they're older people who are just, this is their bag. They love the Disney characters and stuff like that. And the enthusiasm, you can't complain about. You really can't. And, like I was saying about Margaret Carey, who's the original model for Tinkerbell. I mean, she's an
Yeah.
icon, and all these people, there's usually a line around the corner for her. But like, she literally worked with Bobby Driscoll during the making of this. So
Yeah.
she not only was part of Peter Pan, she knew Catherine and Bobby and, all these characters. So her stories are just amazing. And just to be a part of that history in some small way is very special.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like obviously you've made like a lasting legacy on the Disney franchise, Disney company completely. And
Well, I
yeah, I'm
hope
very
so.
proud of
I'm gonna knock on wood for that.
that. Oh, you have in my life, you have
Yeah,
definitely.
good, good.
Oh, so would you ever come back over to the UK?
Are you
Maybe.
kidding me? I can't wait. I can't wait for an excuse to come back. I love it over there, and I've been several times, and I've seen, some of the best shows I've ever seen are on the West End, and I do so love the overcast, rainy season, which seems like most of the time. That's what I really like. Like, I live in LA, and I've lived in LA for a long time, but I spent about 3 years in New York, and that's so much more my speed, which I feel like is very close to how London is,
Yeah.
than LA. But LA is where the work is, so that's where I end up.
Yeah. And what do you tend to do when you're not working as a voice actor or as a writer or anything like that? Would you have any hobbies that you like to take up, maybe?
I do. I mean, I love to read, and it's like, LA's, I'm very into gym culture and running and doing all that stuff, the stuff that you have to do to, stay in this zone of working
Yeah.
actors and whatnot. But I'm always working at something. Like, if I carry my laptop with me everywhere. So if I'm not sitting at a meal with somebody, I'm writing. If I'll go to the pub and be writing, because
Yeah.
there's always writing to do. There's always, either it's my idea or something that I'm working on for someone else. There's always this just stack of to do things. So most of my hobbies have kind of gone away because of how much writing there is. And I'm getting married next month. So you spend some,
Congratulations.
thank you so much, but you have quality time that you have to spend with that. So it's like,
Yeah.
you have relationship time, and then everything else is some form of work. I
Yeah.
just did a play that was a fantastic experience, but it's like I said earlier, I just really like to mix it up and always be busy. So if I'm not writing something, maybe I'm directing a film. I just finished directing a Valentine's Day movie that's going to come out next year. And so that was super fun, and that was just me directing. I didn't write that one. I was just there. But, in Virginia for 3 months making that, then back here writing this movie, then I go to Louisiana to do a play, and it's like that's how I like to do it. Keep it busy,
Yeah.
mix it up.
Yeah, definitely. And what cartoons did you grow up with? I know you said about Super Friends before, but is there any other cartoons that you kind of grew up with? Because of course you were born in the 70s, if I believe.
That's right. I don't know why you have to point that out, but that's very true.
Because you would have been in the target demographic for like the mid
Boom,
80s cartoons, Disney Afternoon,
the
Transformers,
best.
G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, sort of that sort of
GI
time
Joe,
frame.
GI Joe was my go-to. I love GI Joe. I love the Super Friends. There's a Spider-Man and Friends one that was really great,
Spider-Man is Amazing
back in the
Friends,
day.
yes.
Yes, that was good times. And there's another voiceover actor who I like very much, who we did a movie together, like a regular movie, like an acting movie, not a cartoon movie. But
Yeah.
I can't think of his name right now, but I bet you know him. He plays the green changeling guy in Teen Titans, and he's one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know what
Greg
I'm talking about?
Sipes.
Yeah, Sipes. Sipes is great. What a great fun guy. I like him very much.
Yeah, and also talking about G.I. Joe, it's just that funny. Like Corey Burton was a regular voice cast member on that G.I. Joe, and then you ended up
Was he
working with him
now?
about 15 years later. Yeah, how
That's
funny is that?
crazy. I did not know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, like, a lot of people who did Transformers also did G.I. Joe, and of course,
That
like,
makes sense. That makes sense.
oh, I thought you were getting like a G.I. Joe figure. I'm like,
No,
oh my gosh, you got the figure as
no.
well.
All of my figures and whatnot have been hidden away from me, but they still exist.
I was gonna say, did you ever get any Peter Pan merchandise when you did the film or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or
man. Are you kidding? I got tons of stuff. It's awesome.
uh,
I had this, there's this great toy that spoke with my voice, and
yeah,
that was my favorite. But there's so much swag, so much like, my mom, I'm an only child, and my fiance always makes fun of the fact that my childhood room is kind of a shrine to me,
mm-hmm.
and here's one section that's all my Batman collectible stuff, and here's one section that's all these movie pictures and stuff from all the movies I've directed, and then there's this giant corner that is all Peter Pan swag that came out during the promotion for that movie. Like there's a McDonald's, collectible, pirate ship, and there's action figures and books that have my voice in it. She's got it all. So
It's so
she really
cool.
she really keeps it all. But I do get a kick out of it that it exists.
I can't remember if we have any like Peter Pan merchandise apart from the VHS table my siblings had. But to be fair, the Return to Neverland came out about 2 years before I was born, so it was kind of sort
Yes,
of before my
yes,
time.
that's
But then, like I don't know. So we probably did have McDonald's toys or anything, but the only thing I can remember is having the VHS tape. It's better than nothing.
hey, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take
yeah,
it.
yeah. Have to sign it for me or something when I come over.
Absolutely. Yeah, bring it to LA.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, like I am just so excited because just all these people, they're all in LA and stuff. How is it? What would you say? What do you like best about living in LA? What is there any attractions that you kind of well, I won't say kind of you like? Any
Yeah.
places you like to go to? What would you recommend?
Well, I don't think this is actually what you're asking, but my favorite thing about LA is that the business is
Yeah,
here,
that's
and
pretty
that
much what
it's
I'm asking.
very
Yeah.
easy to you meet lots of people who do what you do, right? And I've learned, having lived in New York, that it's just so difficult to make those personal inroads, when you're in another time zone on the other side of the country. So that's my favorite part. But I mean, there's tons of stuff here. I don't know if you were a beach goer, but like, Malibu is lovely. There's
I rarely get to go to the beach, but the one a few times been in the past few years. It's fun. It really is
It's
fun.
fun. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we love movies here. So there are really cool movie theaters that really, are special and unique. And there's all these, I lived in Hollywood for a long time. And in Hollywood, there are all of these bars and restaurants that have all this history. Like, Clark Gable ate here, and, Marilyn Monroe used to hang out at this bar. And I love that. I love the history of the place.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Wow. And I've got to ask now, this is my big question. I always do this at sort
Okay.
of like rounding off the interview or anything like that. But I would say my big question for you, Blayne, is if you could voice anyone in the Peter Pan franchise, except from Peter, but you could still voice him, who would you
Mhm.
voice and why? Could be one of the Lost Boys, could be Captain Hook, could be Mr. Spee. Who would you have a go at voicing?
It's a very easy question for me because Captain Hook is like the best part ever. I would love that. There's a play called Peter and the Starcatcher that won some awards and
Yes,
everything, and it's
because Roger
basically
Rees worked on it.
exactly.
Yes,
That's
yes,
right.
yes,
And
yes.
he was also in
Voice, voice
check it out,
Wendy's husband.
Neverland.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he voiced Wendy's
it's
husband.
it's a comedy. It's obviously it's not Disney, but it is a prequel to how Peter Pan became the boy who could fly, and this character named Black Stash the pirate became Captain Hook. And so I got to do that play not too long ago where I played the Black Stash part, and it was so cool, and got like some write-ups and stuff with Broadway.com and stuff because the voice of Peter Pan was playing Captain Hook, and it was so much fun. So that's an easy one. Pan is my go-to, but if I age out of Pan, I really want them to hire me for Captain Hook. Though
was,
I can't do the voices like Corey does. He just sounds exactly like the original movie. I can't do that, but
I was
I
gonna
would.
say, what were we gonna say? Sorry, you were.
No, that just I would have done that play for years. It was such a
Yeah,
great experience, and sword fighting, and doing
yeah,
all of the lines that Captain Hook has always said to me. And him calling me a codfish was really fun.
yeah. So, what would you say is sort of easier, or what do you prefer? Voicing heroes, or playing villains?
Well, villains are always have a little more fun to them. The heroes, and again, voiceover wise, I've only really done Peter Pan in that world, but like in
Yeah,
movies and TV, the
yeah.
heroes
That's
are
how it
always,
is.
you're always thinking about stuff like, how do I look right now? Is it like, do I look cool? How's my hair? Is my stubble the
Yeah,
right? It's always about being that guy. Whereas the bad guy, you get to have a lot more room to play. It's
yeah,
less about trying to emulate movie star good guyness and more about making the bad guy the most interesting bad guy you can.
yeah, yeah. That's a really good explanation, Blayne.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I
You're
do what I can.
welcome. You're welcome. Is there anything else you would like to plug before I do the outro? Any
No,
Comic
no. I
Cons
have a
you're
movie.
doing?
I
Any
have a movie
films?
called Miss Valentine that's coming out hopefully in February. So keep an eye on that. And
Mm.
what else? Anything else going on? No, not really.
Any Comic Cons you're doing or not?
There might be one in LA next month, but that is unsure now. ToonCon or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not yet. I'm not
Yeah.
for sure about that. But just keep an eye out if you want to check out any of my movies or not screenplays, or any of the things that I've written or directed. You can just go on Amazon or Netflix and just look me up and watch whatever's there.
Yeah, I mean, TwoCon's actually not that far off now. Thinking about it, it's only on like the 8th of October, and that's
Yeah,
like what,
it
in
is.
like
Look,
a
you're so
week?
savvy. How do you? Why do you know that? Why do you
Because
need?
it's on the same weekend as Comic Con Scotland, which is
I
like
understand.
in Edinburgh. I was there last year. I met Frank Welker, and I'm. I think the same weekend it's on. I'm in Carlisle, which is also up north, but it's like 2 hours from Edinburgh, so it's kind of like up in that north area, and
Cool.
so measuring days.
Yeah, right. Well, have a lovely time.
Will do. Thank you, Blayne. So, Blayne, where can we find you on the internet? Have you got any social media? You've got a website, of course. Yeah. So, where
I
can we
do. I'm
find
at BlayneWeaver.com, but I'm on Instagram under Blayne Weaver, and it's Blayne Weaver. And I think Instagram is probably the best way to track me and my movements.
you? Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you a follow on there now because I found you through your website.
Do it. Do it.
Will
Thank
do.
you.
I will do indeed. So, to you guys at home, to everybody at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF featuring the lovely Blayne Weaver. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did filming it. Oh, I just nearly dropped that. Don't do that again. Don't multitask. Just put it down. Do it like that. There we go. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this as much as I did filming it, as I just said. But yes, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye. Bye, everybody. Take care. And